Every time a connection negates or disowns any aspect of ourselves, be it in the form of perceived rejection, disapproval, or distancing move, that threatens our internal systems. As a coping strategy, we learn to split ourselves from those parts that we perceive as not being loving, deserving, or worthy in the eyes of our caregivers, our partners, and our peers. This habit reinforces the belief that if we want to be closer to those we care about, we cannot accept these aspects either, because accepting them means pain, rejection, disapproval, and abandonment. The problem with this approach is that it doesn't work, not for long at least. Not caring about other people disconnects us from them, but when we are defined by what they think about us, we lose our connection to ourselves, to our very essence, which is love. Things like developing healthy boundaries, exploring our own needs, being compassionate towards ourselves and others, and learn to listen and trust ourselves should be taught in school, but they aren't. Instead, we live in a society where we are taught to believe that to fulfill our needs and desires, we have to earn it through work hard, fit into a particular beauty standard, or follow certain rules. And if we don't get it, it's because we aren't enough. Good enough, strong enough, healthy enough, pretty enough, fit enough, productive enough, successful enough, smart enough, enough. We waste our lives comparing ourselves to others, competing with them, focusing on all the things that could or went wrong, and ignoring all the joys we did or will experience. We have created society, and that society has conditioned us. Our minds are tortured and heavily conditioned by a morality which is not moral, because society admits and encourages violence, greed, competition, ambition, and so on, which are essentially immoral. There's no love, consideration, affection, tenderness, and the moral respectability of the society is utterly disorderly. A mind that has been trained for thousands of years to accept, to obey, and conform cannot possibly be highly sensitive and therefore highly virtuous. We are caught up in this trap. The reality is that there are no qualities or characteristics that excludes anyone from achieving what they truly desire out of their lives. The only thing limiting us are the assumptions about ourselves and the world we live in. The way in which we limit our way of thinking allows us to bypass some of the major feelings we have about ourselves, mostly our inability to truly love and accept what we are, as we are right now. Yet, every one of us has worth and value, and the ability to recognize and cultivate that through self-love. Self-love is innate to all beings. We are all made of love, from love, as love. I know it sounds cheesy and even a bit cringy, but that is because the idea of love is often portrayed in the media as this mind-bending, earth-shattering, passionate, soulmate, lovey-dovey, barf impossible to sustain kind of feeling. The reality is that love is not even a feeling, but a coherent connection. Love is all there is. Nothing exists outside of it. Yet, we have the free will to choose to experience its absence. We see love as a frequency, a consciousness of unity, not through conformity, but through acceptance of all of its parts. It is through life experiences that we learn to split ourselves from it in order to adapt to our social environment so we can fit in. This is how we experience lack of love or disharmony. To return to love is to integrate all aspects of ourselves, including the ones we fear, have forgotten, denied, miss, or are afraid to express. To love ourselves is to hold space for all that we are, not just the good parts, but especially for the not so great ones, to acknowledge them and to forgive them. Is to invite those annoying or hurtful bits to take a seat at your table. Your inner critic, your negative self-talk, your shadow self, that part of you that acts like a jerk because it's just trying to protect you from getting hurt again. It's to give them a voice and then listen to them. To see them not only as unwanted parts of you, but parts of you that love you deeply. So much so that they believe that loving you sometimes means cutting you. It means throwing up. It means protecting you from others' love and kindness. It means numbing you from feeling your feelings. No matter who you are in this world, we all have been socialized and conditioned to believe that we have to continue to do or be better in order to love ourselves. However, love is not conditional. So to self-love is to unconditionally accept the parts of ourselves that we are proud of and the ones that are hidden behind our coping mechanisms. Now, it's easy to talk about the importance of self-love without providing the tools that can guide us to nurture self-love. That is because to truly understand ourselves, the world, and our place in it, we must learn to master ourselves. But mastering ourselves requires us to understand ourselves, the world, and our place in it. Quite a paradox. We are all made of the same stuff, the same stardust. But what happens to us and our interpretation of our experiences can vary widely. In fact, it's one of our greatest gifts, the ability to tell stories, to weave personal narratives to help us make sense of what happened to us in the past, what things mean in the present, or how to imagine how something might be in the future. Our mind's ability to spin stories can also be our downfall. As we have shared before in our video about expanding consciousness, self-awareness is essential to conscious change because we cannot actively change what we are not aware of. As such, a fundamental part of any self-love journey starts by developing self-awareness. Our ability to recognize our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors is at the core of any deconditioning and reprogramming process. The more we understand what, how, or why we feel, think, or do what we feel, think, or do, the more we challenge our perception of the stories that shape our subjective experience, ushering a much better understanding of ourselves and the environment we're in. However, the idea of self-love can trigger many of our coping mechanisms because these habits were set in place by the parts of ourselves that are resistant to the idea that it's safe to be who we truly are, which is love. There are other words for this resistance we experience: self-loathing, self-criticism, shadow self, negative self-talk, self-sabotage. However you identify it, when we speak of resistance, we refer to this oppositional force that can take many forms. Some of them we have discussed previously, such as unwanted feelings, limiting beliefs in the form of judgments or goals, and suffering. Resistance is fundamentally what we experience in the absence of love. We all have these aspects of lack of love, some more than others. All of them causes us pain, be it mentally, emotionally, or physically. But it is in our resistance to that pain that we increase our suffering. Why does that happen? Well, first because our resistance blocks the natural flow of love. So it feels like you are swimming against the current, because you kinda are. Also, that is what most of us were taught to do. Every time we feel uncomfortable emotions, we suppress them. Every time we think unpleasant thoughts, we judge ourselves. Every time we do something that we perceive to be wrong or not good enough, we criticize ourselves. It's like being on a boat trying to set sail with the anchor dropped in the water. We can attempt to shift the direction of the boat so we can flow with the current. We can adjust the sails, but if we don't lift the anchor, we're stuck. And we won't get anywhere until we allow ourselves to reflect on how that anchor or resistance is showing up in our lives. This is where self-awareness comes in. Revolt doesn't answer a thing. You must understand it, go into it, examine it. Give your heart and your mind with everything that you have to find out a way of living differently. That depends on you and not on someone else. Because in this, there's no teacher, no pupil, there's no leader, there's no guru, there's no master, no savior. You yourself are the teacher and the pupil. You are the master, you are the guru, you are the leader, you are everything. And to understand is to transform what is. Self-awareness allows us to release that resistance to what is most natural to us, which is to sail effortlessly in the sea of love as love. Questioning ourselves leads to knowledge, and knowledge is power. The idea that what we resist persists means that by realizing our resistances, by understanding how we are denying our emotions, how we process our feelings through unhelpful coping mechanisms like denial, suppression, and distraction, how the quality of our beliefs are impacting our behavior and well-being, we can release their need to be made expressed. In other words, our anchors dissolve. There's really no such thing as bad habits or self-sabotage. They may be seen as a set of behaviors that go against your best interests, values, or goals. But procrastination, overthinking, substance abuse, emotional eating, and emotional or any sort of commitment avoidance are simply coping mechanisms deployed by undesirable parts of ourselves when they perceive certain experiences, such as loving ourselves, as painful. Procrastination is not laziness, it hides mental anguish. Self-criticism, addiction, binge eating, overthinking, none of these are disorders really, but strategies to make you feel in control. They are a dysfunctional source of safety that is attempting to fulfill a need, to protect a deeper wound you have the best way it knows how. If you begin to understand what you are without trying to change it, then what you are undergoes a transformation. Self-awareness gives us the freedom to see how we are hurting ourselves, to observe how our loving parts are overcompensating for a deeper pain. It allows us to choose to hold love and compassion rather than judgment and fear for the constellation of thoughts that make up our stories, and in doing so, transforming our relationship to our own narratives. We spend a lifetime learning maladaptive forms to cope with the dysfunctions in our families, in our societies, and within ourselves. This wound is global and continues to fester through the weight of an unconscious collective belief that supports an archetype of love that is conditional, emphasizing our experience of lack, limitation, and separation. The good news is that our brains are highly adaptable and can easily create new neural pathways to support the expansion of our consciousness. The challenge is that, just like with anything else in life, when you want to develop something, you must give yourself time to focus on it. So attention training is the most powerful tool at your disposal, which you can master by developing a consistent mindfulness practice. To give you more insight, we strongly recommend you to watch our video on mindful attention and download our free guide for you to practice observing your inner states. Our metta meditation is also a great source of focus training to begin opening your heart to the experience of love and gratitude. Learning to love yourself unconditionally is not an overnight transformation. You didn't consciously choose to dislike parts of yourself. It was just a programming, a series of habits that helped you to survive, but are not conducive to your human flourishing. Therefore, remembering the love that you already are requires a lifelong commitment to your well-being, a journey of recognizing and embracing your resistance, of accepting where you are and who you are in every moment in your life. Is to be self-compassionate, vulnerable, honest, and curious to explore all of the ways in which you disembodied, disconnected, and filled your life with suffering. If we know what is important in our lives and what our passions, our gifts, and limitations are, we can act according to this new self-understanding to manifest the outside world. This external world becomes a place to express ourselves through personal choices, conscious creations, and meaningful interactions with others, rather than a place full of dangers and pain. You're not walking this path alone. We're passionate and committed to support your conscious evolution through these series, our coaching program, and a collective of other conscious creators. The next videos are our invitation to begin dissolving the anchors of your resistance and to design your inner environment for the growth that follows. A reminder that by exploring your needs, challenging your assumptions about yourself and the world, carving healthy boundaries, and learning how to listen to your inner guidance, you will begin forming a new personal narrative of what it means to live as someone who loves themselves authentically and unconditionally. I am Liz, and I'm here to empower your conscious journey through our emotional well-being series. See you in the next video.